Welcome to Chris and Jen in the Morning,
where it's always morning somewhere. I'm Chris.
And I'm Jen, and we are so excited to have you here today.
Yes, we are. Welcome back for a fun and exciting Halloween episode.
Ooh, it's a spooky one. I should have put my cat ears on or something.
Missed opportunities. There they are.
Is it, though? Is it missed?
Nope, didn't miss it at all.
I did not plan this, but is that shocking to you?
They're readily available for you. I mean, you have your cat ears on. You have a fun little picture in your background of a scary
I
treat.
painted that. I did. I don't love it, but
Looks good from here.
I don't hate it, so
All
it can stay.
Yeah, it can stay for, another week or two, but then does it get exchanged for a different one?
Well, I don't have a Thanksgiving one, but I have a Christmas one that I painted that I actually am over the moon about. I think it turned out really, really good. So, I don't know. Maybe I should paint a Thanksgiving one.
I think you should.
I don't.
Or something folly. Doesn't have to be Thanksgiving.
Folly.
Folly.
I don't know. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. We'll see.
All right. See where the week takes you.
Yeah. Let's see where the week takes us. And so I'm super excited. These aren't staying. That's
cat ears are off.
Just feel them squeezing my brain. So that lasted a whole 60 seconds. So I'm super excited to talk today about spooky Halloween edition, Ghosts from the Past. And so we'll talk about that today. But before we start that, let's dive into our gratitude moments. And Chris, I don't know if I'm dying to share with you. This is such a me gratitude moment. And that's okay. I'm leaning into it. Maybe I'll even get a shirt that just identifies me as a bird watcher. But this week, I have just really been enjoying bird watching. And so here we were on our way to our date the other day, driving down the highways in DFW. And there are just all these birds sitting on telephone wires on the way. It's that season where the birds are migrating south. And so there's just way more birds than usual. And I also had been out in the backyard taking pictures. There's this red-shouldered hawk that likes to come visit the trees in my backyard, at my neighbor's backyard, and look over the private park next to us. It's called the swamp.
We affectionately call it the swamp.
And so I've been getting some great photos of this hawk. I mean,
you did. You sent a few. They were really good.
Beautiful. It is a beautiful bird and very eerie. It stares into your soul. But as we were driving through the highways and looking at all the birds on the wires, I was just really enjoying them. Look at that. That has a really neat tail. Look at that. And Ace is I'm driving. But I just was what's so great about bird watching as a hobby is they're everywhere. You don't have to go out into nature to do it. They're just the birds will find you.
You literally go outside of your house and you can see the birds. You don't even have to go outside your house.
No, there was for several years, I swear it was the same bird that would come, and on the front window above our door, way high up on the second story, it would come and just bang itself on that front window. It was trying desperately to get into the house, and it needed us to know something.
Did you ever let it in?
No, nor did we find out what the message was, but...
What if those were the winning lottery numbers?
In Morse code or something? I don't know. Missed opportunities. Back to my gratitude moment. I just have really been enjoying the birds. I know that, they may be more dear to my heart than everybody else's, but, just to get to watch them and look at all their pretty colors and see them fly. And it's just enjoying the beauty that's all around you, wherever you are. So,
and you really do get sucked into it. I just love when we're here in New York walking around and you're oh, look at that pigeon. Look at that pigeon. Meanwhile, people are walking by get out of the way, pigeon.
I mean, I used to play this game on my phone many years ago. It's back when phones first had games. It was this game where you could collect all of these different frogs and then breed the frogs together to try and get different types and colors and patterns of frogs to sort of collect them all. I know. I don't even know what the game was, or
just seeing where this story is going to land.
The pigeons, it's like you want to take a picture of each, like they're all different. They all have different coloring and pattern, and I'm not like, we're not breeding pigeons or like, I don't, like I come say hi to the birds when I visit, but that's where it ends.
Yes, Frank, that's actually one of the reasons Frank really enjoys breeding the birds, is for the like genetics of it. Like, it's not just the joy of it, but it's like the science biology stuff behind it as well. So,
well, let's to be clear, in that game there is just roll a dice and see what you get. There was no science or biology or like, no.
Okay.
But yeah, so I don't know how we got there from
but birds. You're
watching.
So grateful for birds.
I am.
And birds that have been surrounding you lately.
I am. They make me feel like a Disney princess.
Love that.
Yeah.
I mean, you are one, so...
Obviously.
Unicorns
and all.
Yeah. So if you're not watching, if you're just listening, Jen has a little unicorn parked on her microphone this morning.
Yeah, my new fuzzy microphone on my new mic stand.
Well, my gratitude moment this week is around local artists. So I have this piece that is up behind me. It's Ghosts of Sunnyside. So it's the little neighborhood that we live in is called Sunnyside.
Can you bring it in closer?
Yeah. And these are the Sunnyside arches that are on it. And little ghosts and pumpkins and fall colors. The artist her name is Jamie West. You can find her on Instagram under Jamie West Paintings, and it's spelled Jaimee, and then West spelled like West. But it's super cute. I saw her at a local like craft type show thing that was being hosted. So I stopped and chatted with her for a little bit, picked up this print because I really liked the fall colors of it.
It's so cute.
And then whenever we were I just felt like it really went well with the topic today. So
yeah, very
so I have the little ghosts on the painting, and then this is a little Space Molly ghost here. So
so cute. So cute.
Yeah, so if you are just listening, check out our video version on YouTube, and you can see our backgrounds, and you can see Jen's unicorn firmly taking up residence on her microphone.
And this photo is so great. I love it. I think some of those pumpkins may have had bats for mouths too.
It's very creative. It's a great piece. Love it.
So, I just noticed your bumblebee up there. Is that new?
Yes, a bumblebee Labubu.
Yeah.
Next to the Starbucks barista Labubu.
Giving me total vibes of when we dressed up our dog, one who is no longer with us, is a bumblebee for Halloween. And let me just tell you, it was amazing. So she didn't think so, but she was adorable. Funny, she had the same reaction that our child had when we dressed them up as a bumblebee for Halloween. So
maybe we shouldn't do the bumblebees anymore.
So off to the PetSmart I go to get some bumblebee costumes for Chloe and Lola. We'll see if they like it. I actually have been telling Ace we need to get the dogs Halloween costumes this year because Chloe loves to wear clothes. Loves it. Loves to wear clothes. She gets so excited about wearing sweaters and stuff. And Lola likes to be involved in whatever Chloe is involved in. So Lola doesn't really enjoy the clothes so much. I mean, she deals with them. She's the one that actually needs clothes in the cold. Like, she's just tiny and, but, yeah, Chloe, the husky, absolutely loves to put on clothes. She's like, gets so excited.
She's fashionista.
Yeah, we bought a coat for Lola last year because she was just so, like, skinny and, like, undernourished, and we were concerned it was just too cold for her.
Yeah.
And, so we bought her a coat, and she was like, what is this? And Chloe was like, me! Put one on me! I must have it!
I need one. Give it to me.
Yeah, very cute. So maybe we'll go to the store later today.
Oh my gosh, that would be a great thing. If you dress up your pets for Halloween, share a photo with us. I would love to see the dressed up pets. We just learned in some warm-up trivia that pumpkin is apparently the most popular costume for pets.
I just don't buy that. I don't believe it. Like I don't know about that.
That's what the trivia tells us.
We'll see if I can convince Ace to go get costumes this afternoon for the girls.
Fun adventure. You're welcome.
So, yeah, tune in. We'll share.
Okay, so we have the reason I felt like this photo in the background and the little ghost Molly was so apropos for my background today is because we're going to talk a little bit about ghosts from our pasts.
Yeah, very spooky topic. I mean, just imagining every time I say spooky, there's like some like graphic that comes up on the screen. Spooky. But we want to talk about ghosts from the past, which that was my response to you when I saw the topic. That's very spooky. And it can be really spooky. So what are ghosts from our past? Their regrets, their fears, their unresolved trauma. And we thought we'd start by just sharing with you a couple of our spooky ghosts from the past.
Yeah.
So, Chris, why don't you start?
Yeah, so I think sometimes it's like also the way that we react or the way that when we think back to how we like showed up, if you will, and you just got, ugh. So like there were two of them that I actually had like written down so that I would remember them. And then, of course, like last night as I'm trying to wind down and get ready for bed, a ghost popped up and I was like, oh my God. So I think like the first one that really stands out from my like further past is I think it was for my sister-in-law's bachelorette party, or maybe it was her birthday or something. And I had met up with her and some of her friends in downtown Fort Worth back when I lived in Texas. And one of her friends like had never met before. So we were chatting, and this person who I didn't really know beyond just having met them, like just asks, "Are you gay?" And after they had like...
That was assertive.
Yes. Like after they had gone like, "Are you dating anyone? Are you," like going down like this list of things. And I was not out at the time. And so my reaction in that moment is I remember being like offended. I remember like, you don't know me. Why are you asking me all of these like super personal questions? I was not rude, but I definitely reacted in a way of self-preserving, if you will. And so when I look back at that, I feel a few different feelings about it. Like I still feel like I'm right to defend myself because you're a stranger and we've met 10 minutes ago and you feel like you have the right to ask me such a personal question.
In an aggressive way.
Yeah.
Like an accusation.
And in all fairness, like drinks were flowing. The atmosphere was not one of just like laid back leisure. There were probably other mitigating circumstances that helped come to this moment. But I just remember being so offended. I shared with like my best friend whenever she and I got together, and I was like, I can't believe that this, and it just like stuck with me, and it stuck with me back then because I think I knew at that point that I was gay, but I wasn't telling anyone. So I think there was this, oh my gosh, if this person who barely knows me suss this out in 10 minutes. Oh my gosh. But then now I look back on it and I'm like, wow, like someone that I took as this person was coming for me in that moment was actually creating a space for me to engage in a conversation. And I got defensive rather than curious. I don't know, like I look back and I have like an ick moment for it because for all the reasons.
Is it an ick about what was done to you or an ick about how you reacted?
Both. I think as I look back, it's a little bit of both. And now that I am confident and comfortable in who I am, I kind of look back and I'm like kind of irritated, ashamed, whatever the right word is, of myself for even like having that reaction back then and having those thoughts and having those feelings. So it's a lot. Like it's been a journey.
Let's put a pin in that.
Exactly.
We're going to talk about that.
Yeah. And then so another one that happened more recently was I was on a very crowded train and there was someone, if you are not familiar with riding on a New York City subway, there's just certain etiquette that you follow. If you are getting in with a backpack on a crowded train, you take the backpack off. If you are getting into a crowded train, you're not leaning against the posts that people can hold on to. Like you create space for other people. So we get on this train.
I'm feeling very convicted.
You're like, I do all of those things. But you don't like to touch the poles. So you are much sooner to grab onto me, to Ace, to Frank, whoever is in your group that's right there.
Absolutely true. And accidentally step on other people's toes.
Well, yes, that has happened. So I get in this train, super crowded, but this person is leaning against this pole that is meant for people to hold on to. And they run like the height of the train so that no matter how tall you are, no matter how many people, there's a place for people to grab onto. This guy was leaning against a pole to where like I couldn't grab below because
it's too low.
He was there.
Yeah.
I couldn't grab above because someone else was already grabbing there. And so I said to the person, "Excuse me, do you mind not leaning against the pole?" And they had headphones in and they didn't hear me. But towards the end of what I was saying, I guess they caught me out of their side vision and turned to me and said, "What did you say?" And they didn't take out their headphone. I said, "It's a crowded train. Do you mind not leaning against the pole?" And like tapped their shoulder. Like you would tap someone's shoulder to get their attention. This person like flies off the hand. "How dare you touch me? Who do you think you are? You don't just come in and start touching strangers. I'll stand wherever I want." Like made this huge scene as if like I had grabbed them, touched them inappropriately. Did not, to be very clear, tapped. And I am not underselling what I did. Like I practically like tapped them on the shoulder because again, they didn't take out their headphones, which they clearly didn't hear the first time I asked. So like all in trying to be able to ride safely to where I'm not falling down or stepping on people. This person has this huge reaction. They get off the train like at the next stop. And I just remember feeling like I shouldn't have touched them. Like, even if it was just tap on the shoulder, there's sensitivity about that. You don't know if people have like, so when I reflect back on this, it's not so much like, do I feel their reaction was like way over the top? Absolutely. And their reaction is theirs. However, I look back on it and I'm like,
you are one to tell people what they should and shouldn't do on the train, though. That is what I remember you telling me about somebody like lighting up on the train and you let them know how.
Well, because in that situation, I don't have, like, the train was moving. I can't get off and I don't want to be stuck in a small space with someone smoking a cigarette.
Oh, I don't either. I just am like, man, Chris is brave. I mean.
Yeah, so I guess I'm brave when I'm on the subways. Maybe I'm just more in an irritable spot.
You're subway brave? Yeah, maybe you're just like your patience runs thinner.
Yeah.
So why does this moment stick out for you?
I think because, like, when I look back, the person's reaction, like I don't want to leave people feeling a certain way. Yeah. And so here's a complete stranger who doesn't know me. I don't know them. As far as I know, we've never seen each other again. But it's just like, I don't know what they were going through in their day. And I don't like the way that I made them feel.
You're such a kind person.
Yeah.
Both of these scenarios are scenarios where I would not say I would walk away feeling bad about my behavior, and you're just so
But that's
kind.
the thing, they're my ghosts.
Yeah,
they're ghosts from my past. Do you have any ghosts?
I do. Well, there's a lot of ghosts. I got a lot of ghosts. Okay,
it's practically a haunted house over here. Okay,
it's a haunted house. I mean, this is why we go to therapy, right? Which work through those things. And I mean, I think I've shared in the past some stories that we could all recognize as ghosts from my past that I've been working through. But I was thinking as you were texting me about this topic, like, oh, what did I do in saying this is something I'd be willing to talk about? Because I don't know that there's anything that I am willing to share and that I want to talk about, because you just get that feeling of like the ghosts that are still haunting you, like haunted, very vulnerable, right? I had found every way to get around sharing my own personal experiences, of course. Then I was in the shower where we do our best thinking, naturally. I realized, wait a second, this last week I have had the perfect example of a ghost that has come back to haunt me. And I will say that I am better at recognizing that a ghost is haunting me in that moment than I have been in the past. So 9 years ago, I can't believe it's been 9 years, our house was struck by lightning and burned down. And I get kind of annoyed talking about this because I'm annoyed at how difficult it was and still feels to have gone through that experience. And I don't know why, because if somebody else was telling me the story, like annoyed would not be my reaction, right? Like I would be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, particularly having been through it, knowing how traumatic it is. But I just sort of get annoyed hearing myself talk about it. So I don't really like to talk about it that much because, it's all material stuff. But like, it was an intensely traumatic experience, particularly because one of the things that I've worked my whole life for is to build this sense of stability and safety. Like having something come in and just sweep your entire safe place, your home, out from under your feet.
Something you have no control over.
Really scary. And then all these things that you've surrounded yourself with, many of them are just gone. And in this situation, we didn't realize that there was an option to either fix the house or take a check and go buy a new house. So you're not really thinking critically about that. I think I also hadn't accepted how totally the house was destroyed. I mean, it was a attic fire that relit the next day, and it ruined the entire house. I have, some of the stuff we still we're able to salvage, but most of what we had was lost, and what wasn't burned in the fire was either deemed unsafe because it was plastic and got very hot, and then that can change the chemical structure of it, or was ruined by mold and flooding and etc. So the house, the top part had to be rebuilt. The insides were completely gutted down to the cement slab and the outside bricks. And except for at the top where they had to be replaced. And so we hired this company that had been in business for a long time, so restoration company, to rebuild the house, not understanding that restoration companies, this is a really big job. They don't typically rebuild an entire house. And this company had recently just been bought by the sons of the longtime owner. And so this was the biggest project they had ever taken on. We didn't know that at the time. And so while I think they really were trying to do a good job and do right by us, there were a lot of things that happened in the year that it took a whole year to rebuild the house. And in that time, there were just so many things that happened that went wrong. And anytime you have work done, something goes wrong. I've learned that. But what we found after is that the subcontractors that they hired to do the work, they didn't manage them very well. And there are a lot of quality errors and things done. So we had toilets leaking because they weren't installed right. We had plumbing issues. We had some electrical issues because things weren't done quite right. We had HVAC systems that were, of course, entirely new and, down to the sticks. You have new ducting run, everything. So last year, we had to replace some very expensive equipment. And they said, we have 2 ACs. We live in Texas, and that's just how things work here. And they said, you're probably going to have to replace the next one, the other one. And by the way, these should be under warranty, but the contractor that did the work, they didn't file the paperwork. So nothing is under warranty.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And they were installed wrong. And so because they were installed wrong, these things that should have lasted you at least 15 to 20 years, you spend,
Didn't even make a 10.
Yeah, didn't even make it 10. It was 7 years, I think, last year from the time that they actually were installed, because it took a year to rebuild the house. And so they just came out and said, as we had started hearing some noise, that this next one needed to be replaced. And here we're in the same situation. We worked really hard to find a good HVAC company, and I still think we found a really good one. But there's a lot that goes on with pricing and stuff that just gets a little sometimes hard to understand. And then you have the Freon switch this year, so parts are harder to find. And, there's a lot more that goes into replacing a coil in an AC unit. And so I just was having this moment that we were going to have to spend, a very large sum of money to fix this. And it was even more than it was the year prior. And, so here we talk to them and, everybody leaves and I start having this panic moment. And so what do? I Google, of course. And Google is telling me this is more than the average price that you would pay for this. And I start freaking out. And And I'm like, I can feel my body is just like in total adrenaline mode, which is annoying that I'm there. And I'm just going for like, why I can't even be rational. I'm just emotional about all of this. And I'm telling Ace, and I'm like, look, in roles right now, I'm the one that took the freaked out one. So I'm sorry, you just get to be the sane one, because that's how partnership works, right? And, he's just looking at me like, you're crazy, but I love you. But what I was able to realize after just talking through it is I actually am just triggered by having all of the things that happened during the house rebuild. And we had somebody that was supposed to be responsible for taking the contents of our stuff that remained and fixing them so that we could have them back, and they stole a bunch of our stuff, and like it just was horrible. And then knowing that like these contractors didn't do a good job, and we had this house that like I was just absolutely loved, and everybody's like, but aren't you lucky you got to rebuild a house? Like I've never felt. I'm sorry. Don't say to somebody when their house burns down, oh my gosh, you're so lucky you got to rebuild a house. Like, that's just so rude. I didn't want to rebuild a house. If I wanted to rebuild a house, I would have bought a house that I was going to rebuild. You're not lucky that you get to redo your house. It's incredibly traumatic. But I was just realizing I was back triggered in this place of these people that were doing bad work, and these contractors that had installed the HVAC units in the first place, and how they installed them improperly, and then they didn't register them, and all of these things. And here we are, and I was going, are we getting screwed again? And I was like right back in that place of I can't trust anybody, the knowledge to understand all of this, and like how do I just not get taken advantage of again? And I'm going to write this check for thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Like, how do I know that I am not just making a poor decision again?
Right.
And luckily, we were able to realize that that was what was going on with both of us. And then we were able to have a conversation with them and say, okay, wait, let's just slow down a minute. Can we just talk a little bit more? Can you talk us through the cost of this? Can you talk us through like how you got to these numbers? Can we just understand a little bit better? And we're not questioning you. We're not calling you like every time you have been into our home, like it's been top-notch service. You have people who, we trust you, like it's been great, but like here's what's going on with us, and we just need a little more transparency. And they were willing to take the time to walk us through that, to have those conversations on a Friday evening. You could hear kids in the background, and so I'm really grateful that they were able to do that. But I absolutely was, the ghost of my past was haunting me in that moment. And going through all of these things, all of these experiences of, what's really going on here? Am I really this irrational, like emotional about my HVAC unit? Like I'm upset about having to spend the money, but like I'm not really emotional about that. That's not what's going on here. And being able to identify that and then, help kind of dispel it a bit. And so I think that's what we want to talk about next, is like, why do these moments come up, and then what do we do about it?
Yeah. So whenever when we decided to land on this topic, we knew that it was going to dig in a little deeper and probably make us be a little more vulnerable, because we wanted to make it real, right? And so in doing this, it's also figuring out, why do we feel this way? Why are we pushed, pulled, whatever you want to call it, into these spaces that all of a sudden we're like having these responses that we don't want to have. And so we've talked about it before, and Jen, you have actually said, I think in a few episodes actually, talking about how our brains actually store memories and how it takes it in and codes it and stores it, puts it, files it away. But the brain actually stores these emotional memories differently from our factual ones. And this is due to how our amygdala tags those strong emotions. So if you're a tech person, it's like that metadata that's getting coded in so that you can go back and search for a file. Like our emotional metadata is getting tagged all over the place.
Yeah. And, when somebody explained to me about how memories are stored, and in some of the research that I've done for myself over the years about this, it's kind of obvious when you think about it, but it never seems obvious. at first. When I think about memories, I think about them, at least for me, like a movie. Like you're a third-party person watching back what happens. It's as if you're looking at pictures or little snips or clips of time. But the thing is that memories aren't created as these movie-like third-party depiction of the past. Your memories, they're not this comprehensive, factually accurate account of like an all-encompassing bird's eye view of what's happening. Your memories are fragmented combinations of different sensory inputs and what's going on. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't trust your memory. It just is that there are certain sensory things and certain moments and different pieces that are picked up and stored as memory. And then there are other details that, you may not remember. So if you're expecting to think back and remember something that happened as if you were watching a movie, that's often not how memories get stored. And so you think like, why am I just remembering these really benign things or these, facts about this memory that happened that don't seem to be a part of the memory.
Right.
And it's often something you've like crawled, when it's trauma, you've like crawled back into yourself, and it's something sensory that's picking back up.
Which also explains why you can have you could have been in an experience with someone and you both walk away years later and reflect back differently.
Different pieces. Yeah, there are different things that stand out to you. And the thing about memory is that its purpose for us is not so that you can retell this factually accurate, all-encompassing story about what happened. That's not why our bodies code these things. The purpose of memory is so that you can duplicate what is good and avoid what is bad. It's about microevolution, right? That's like keeping us alive. So self-preservation, survival of the fittest, like that's why our bodies have memory. It's what it's designed for. It's not designed for going back and like retelling this all-encompassing, factually accurate depiction of what's happening. It is obvious, right, when you hear about it, but when you think about it, like what I think is it should be like watching a movie. What's, for me, has been really helpful in realizing that is when you start to think about what are the things I'm remembering, then why is that? What is that telling me? Why did my body, my brain choose to store that? What is it, even if maybe it's incorrectly telling me a story, like what is that informing me? Because once you start to really understand that, then you start to be able to dispel some of the myths that you may be holding on to about, what those similar experiences mean. So, for instance, in my story of the house fire, here I am talking to a contractor, and I like things are surprising to me, and I'm back in this situation again where I'm just going to get taken advantage of, and that one doesn't necessarily equal the other. That adrenaline that's running, causing the shaky hands and the stress and that, feeling of I'm just really uncomfortable and I need to get out of here. In the fight or flight, I definitely was going like flight. I just want to get out of here. Now, that's a really real feeling, whether it's correctly informed or not. So being able to acknowledge that and kind of stop it, and then helps you think logically about it.
Right. And I think like for you and I have talked about my need to make people comfortable. And the wanting people to feel seen and heard, even if it is at the detriment of myself. And so as I reflect back on my stories, like two very different scenarios, but still places where I feel I potentially left someone feeling uncomfortable, which was not at all what my desire was to in those moments. But it was like in those moments of I want to be able to ride safely on the train and have a place to hold on to. I made someone uncomfortable. And me not being comfortable in my own skin yet, and someone asking me a very direct question, like pinged all the vulnerabilities within me. And so it's those things that when the brain just starts operating and starts pulling up, how are we going to react? What do we need to do? It's pulling from those old memories. It's pulling from those places to try and help you protect yourself, both physically and sometimes mentally and emotionally.
Yeah, and what I think is really important context to remember, there are a couple of things here. So one, as we continue to grow and learn, when we look back on what we said, actions we took, decisions we made, things that make us cringe, sometimes it's hard to let go of those past versions of ourselves. But really, our past is just our learning curve. And I think it's really important to remember that. Look how much you've grown. Instead of thinking back on those past moments and like cringing because of the way that you reacted then, like you're at a place now where you're cringing, so you maybe wouldn't react the same way. You've learned something. What we can do is stop ourselves in those moments of cringe and say, look how much I've grown, and give yourself space to be both the person that you were back then and also the person that you are today. I think about one of my cringiest memories is when I was an intern at this very prestigious place where I grew up, and I was an HR intern, and my internship was longer than most of the other summer interns. And so I remember standing at the tunnel as all the interns were leaving for their last day, going to the parking garage and just saying to them, like, have a nice life. Like at the moment, I just thought, saying goodbye and being funny, and are we going to see each other again? Who knows, whatever. But the person I am today, like I would never do that.
I just imagine you telling people now, have a nice life, as you're walking away from them. I love it. I'm going to make a shirt out of that.
Oh my gosh. It's like so cringy. I just want to go back to that version of myself and say,
but see, I don't think you would tell that person to I think you would help them process it. Like help them process what they are actually trying to say.
Here, you know how this is going to come across, like not the way that you're thinking. Like,
right.
But that was a much younger version of myself. I wouldn't make that same decision today. I would not be the HR person standing at the tunnel on somebody's last day saying, have a nice life. Can you imagine?
I wonder if any of them tell that story. Do you remember that lady who was telling us have a nice life?
Probably I'm the person that remembers it and nobody else does.
I think that's also an important part of all of this is like, usually those moments like stand out to us because we look back at them and think, how could I have done that? How could I have said that?
Well, I didn't mean it the way it came out. Like that's not how I meant it.
Right.
But I sure did say it over and over and over again.
Exactly. But to them, it is probably
shocking.
In one ear,
I wasn't
out the other.
offered a full-time job there.
Just shocked.
Shocking.
Okay, so we've talked about having these ghosts in our proverbial houses, if you will. So how do we make sure that if they're going to linger, how do we manage them? Because I do think there is a part of this that some of these ghosts will take a lot of time to process and get comfortable with, if you will.
You still cringe sometimes. So I think as we are doing, but I think what's good to remember is that ghosts are way less scary when you turn the light on. All of a sudden, once the light is on, they're kind of cute. And just like the ones in your picture there.
Right.
So how do you turn on the light? Well, there are a few things that you can do. And some of these are things that we've talked about in past episodes. But one really important one is to name it to tame it. I love that phrase. But you talk about it. You bring awareness to it. And I think our instinct is like to cover up the things that embarrass us or that make us cringe. And I'm not saying you need to get on a podcast and talk about it. And I'm not saying that you need to share all of your, most deeply held cringe moments with the world, even if it's just to yourself or if it's with somebody that you trust. Once you say it out loud, sometimes a little bit more humor can get injected, like where you go, oh, yeah, like look at that person that I was 20 years ago, 30 years ago that did this thing. And, I am not that person anymore. So kind of bring some context.
Right. And I think in the process of that, you're also processing what actually was going on. So in the story that you had, the conversation you and Ace were having, like, as you began to kind of pull those feelings, those memories apart, you began to really understand where all of this was coming from. So in that process, you're now understanding where it's coming from and you can start to tame it. Like, I think
Yeah.
that's so important to this. It's not just being able to put a name and like, okay, now that I know what it is, like put it on the shelf. I never have to deal with it again. No.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it's not like you just resolve them and they dissipate. Some of the ghosts still, walk the widow's peak every year, but you name it, and after you name it, you normalize it, and then you nurture it. So the three ends. So normalizing it, everybody evolves. We all have those moments that are cringy in our past, and if you can't look back at a previous version of yourself and find things that you would do differently now, then that might be a sign that you're not being honest with yourself, because we all grow and evolve. And then nurturing it is finding the gratitude for what it taught us. So I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't have been through those things that I went through. And it doesn't mean that I have to be grateful for hard things happening. Like if somebody said to me, well, be really grateful that your house burned down so that, you could be in this place where you learn these lessons. Like, no.
I'm just going to take a note of that real quick.
Don't say that. But I can find gratitude that even in the face of those hard circumstances, I have been able to take something from it. And I think that that's a part of what helps you move from that like victim type role into taking your power back. It doesn't mean that in situations there wasn't an aggressor or something bad didn't happen. It just means that instead of remaining in that space where you're focused on what it took, you take your power back by removing yourself from the victim role and being, almost belligerent towards it by saying, in the face of something bad, I'm going to take something good.
Right. Well,
And
I think that's such an important component in all of this is like, we can't go back and change the past. Like you can sit and spin on it all day long, but there is no time spent there and nothing you can do that's going to change what happened. However, what are the learnings? What are the things that occurred? What are actions I could have taken? What are things I could have said that if I am ever in this situation again, how can I show up? How can I be different? What could I say? And I think for me, that's like been a huge like help to get me over the hurdle, because every time I get on the subway, I think of that person, even though it was a tap on the shoulder.
I don't know if I would say that's healthy,
but not in the way that like it stops me from like being able to operate throughout my day. But it's just that having that awareness and knowing that scenario will happen again. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And so what will I do differently to honor myself in those moments, but also show up better for that other person, even understanding I can't control how people react to things.
Well, I think it's also really important that we stop expecting our younger selves to have all of the skills, experience, knowledge that we have today, and that we remember that the wisdom we have now is something we have gained over time.
Right.
And I often look back on these younger versions of myself, like, that very driven girl telling everyone at the end at the mouth of the tunnel to the parking garage to have a nice life. She was still in college. She's brand new. There were a lot of things that she didn't yet understand. Being kind to yourself means having grace. It doesn't mean not having accountability for your actions and your behaviors, but it means using the right measuring stick. If I am expecting her to be as experienced and skilled and wise as somebody who has 20 or 30 years more experience, I think that's not realistic. That doesn't make sense. But oftentimes I think we do this in parenting with our kids as they start to grow up. We start to expect them to behave like we would behave or make decisions like we would make decisions. We have to remind ourselves they're not us yet. We've got a couple decades of experience on them. Now, that's the part of having young adult children that, you have to start to learn as you go from being their big protector and guide to being that safe place for them. But you're really more of an advisor. You're no longer holding the reins and driving the car. Even literally, they're driving themselves. So
well, that does like remind me of, I remember when I was still in high school and I was really like trying to, I hadn't submitted what I wanted my schedule to be because I couldn't decide if I wanted to, what of two options I wanted to take. And I remember as an expressive, I have to talk about things to truly process them.
Yeah.
And I remember I would keep going to my mom to talk to her about this. And I guess this was probably like the 8th or 10th iteration of this conversation that she and I were having. And I remember her so just like graciously and eloquently saying, Chris, I feel like you want me to make this decision for you. And I can't. Like you are going to have to make this decision and you're going to have to live with it. And you may look back and say, dang, I shouldn't have done that, or I wish I would have done this. But you take that and you learn from it. So that way,
It's
when
very
you are
wise.
exactly. And so I think about that as it's like something very benign, right? Like it was the safety net is I was still in high school. I had my mom, like there were many things, but it's like that progression to understanding that the choices you make, the decisions that you put into place can have a lasting impact, and understanding like as you move through life, looking back on those things, how to use them as reference points. So that way they don't haunt you.
Yeah. And I think, what we have to learn is how to trust ourselves. So when you get on the subway, trust yourself, trust your growth. You
Not just
have
going to go tapping everyone's shoulders.
You've been learning about how to balance boundaries. And, I think that's a really important lesson. For me, in my scenario, it's about trusting my decision making and, that it's okay to go, whoa, I need to slow things down and ask some more questions. That's actually like great evolution. I was feeling like really upset about how I got caught up in all these feelings related to this experience that I had so many years ago that I just haven't been able to like remove from my existence. But why am I trying to remove it? Because look how much I've learned from it. I was able to say, with the help of my husband and life partner, it certainly made him do most of the talking. Like we were able to stop and say, wait a second, we need to slow down. Can we move out the service date for getting this fixed and just have some conversation? And like we want to be transparent with you and tell you we're not accusing you of being like shady, or we're not escalating this, we're not saying that you're trying to rip us off. What we're trying to share is we need to know a little bit more, because we've learned that you can't always just blindly trust. By doing so, we can make a better, more informed decision. Trust yourself, trust your growth. It takes you out of, here I was in this like victim emotional state of feeling about how we were just so, like, I feel so dumb that I was taken advantage of, but how, even if it wasn't intentional by the general contractor, but like, how would I have known? How would I have known that? Because I never endeavored to go build a house on my own, right? Instead of looking back at those moments and being upset with that version of myself, saying, you know what, I'm no longer a victim. I've learned something from those scenarios, and I'm going to use that knowledge as I go forward so that I don't find myself in the same scenarios again.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do think that there is this idea of self-compassion, self-forgiveness that we have to learn in these moments that we want to rather cringe. So if you are in that space and thinking, oh my gosh, I just cringe when I think back on that, well, approach it from a different direction.
Yeah.
Did that person have the same information that you have? Did they have the same lived experiences? Probably not. And that was probably, in that moment, probably a learning opportunity that you have now taken with you as a life lesson. So, practice that self-forgiveness, learn how to integrate that thinking and that way of approaching those moments. And then just remember that you don't have to exercise your past to continue to survive.
I just see the past on some of those like workout machines, like exercising your past.
Not that type of exercise.
Okay. All right.
But instead, like, show that compassion to yourself, to that previous version of yourself, and let yourself find comfort in those moments that you've learned, and that you are now a different person because of that lived experience.
Well, I think it's how we generate resilience, right? I mean, oftentimes I think we think of resilience as something you either have or you don't have. But, I think resilience is created and fostered through being future focused and continuously pointing yourself towards what can I learn. And so, sometimes I don't feel as bouncy. I don't feel like I'm going to bounce back quite as easily. And in those moments, being able to focus on, okay, what can I learn from this? What can I take from it? It kind of removes you from that victim role, and puts you back in a position of, there's a position of power. There's a reason that, when they're talking about dealing with past trauma, that therapists and experts will tell you, go back, put yourself back in that scenario, imagine yourself there, and then imagine yourself doing something different. Imagine yourself taking your power back, because that actually helps to inform your memories that you have to create these different pathways inside of your brain on how then you will feel, so that when you get triggered, those feelings that come, those pathways that light up are not the trauma pathways, but they are instead memories of you taking your power back. Yeah. So I think it's just really powerful. And so whether it's trauma that you're thinking about, or whether it's a traumatic situation, or whether it is just one of those cringy moments that feels kind of traumatic, like standing at the entryway to the parking garage telling everyone to have a nice life, you instead can recalculate or recalibrate how you feel about that. And when you're in those situations that may trigger those moments, instead of cringing, you're going, you know what? I just really appreciate how much I've grown and what I've learned, and I know that I am now better prepared to handle these situations in the future.
Exactly. And this may be shocking, but neither of us are doctors or experts in this field of study. So if
sharing what we've learned.
Exactly. So if you do find yourself having a really hard time working through some of that stuff, or you do find it truly debilitating, we encourage you to find an expert, find a doctor who can, because it's hard. It's not we have used experiences within our daily lives that are things that we are willing to share, but we all have things within our life that are sometimes more deeply rooted. And so we encourage you, if you find yourself in that space, don't be afraid to reach out for help, because that's why there are people who are professionals in these things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've been pretty open about the fact that we both take advantage of those professional services. So there's no shame in that. I think it's really helpful to be able to have somebody who can help you step outside of yourself and understand better how to process, some of what's happening or what's happened. So, well, we really appreciate you going through this spooky session with We would love to hear not only how you're going to dress up your pets for Halloween, but also we would love to hear your thoughts. What do you do? So we gave the 3 N's of name it to tame it, normalize it, and nurture it. But how do you conquer those ghosts from your past? We're always crowdsourcing new ways to improve our quality of life as well. So share with us. Where can they share with us, Chris?
So you can, depending on what platform you're listening to us on, you can drop a comment. You can follow, subscribe wherever you're listening to us from. But you can also find us on all of our socials. So we are on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook under Chris and Jen ITM. And if you don't want to share in such a public way, it's totally fine. We can be reached at chrisjeninthemorning@gmail.com, or you can leave us a voicemail, a text at 940-278-8129.
Yes, and until next time, be kind to yourself, to one another, and let's make it a great week. Bye! Ooh, spooky! I love it!